Bob Arum says he wants Crawford, his fighter, versus Errol Spence, and he wants a 45-45 split. Winner gets an additional 10%. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. This is a good one I got. It's a topic I've been wanting to talk about, and I'm just now making the time. Now, Bob Arum has openly, made a play for his fighter Terence Crawford to fight Errol Spence. Sounds good, sounds great, boxing fans. But I really feel Bob Arum in Top Rank, oftentimes, especially Bob Arum, he's playing on the emotions of fans. We all know fans are emotional and passionate, and they want to see Manny Pacquiao, his fighter at the time, versus Floyd Mayweather. And he knows there's an interest. He knows Errol Spence is a great welterweight and Terence Crawford are great welterweights. And in my opinion, in my assessment, I said that's 1A and 1B, until they fight or until one of them loses to other competition. So Bob Arum, to me, he's done some recent interviews, and after Crawford versus Khan, he says, "Oh, Al doesn't want to make the fight," and he's blaming Al Heyman. He did all this bad mouthing of Al Heyman, and then from what it sounds like, Fury and Wilder is set to go if they both keep winning, their interim fights. But anyway, now with the Crawford Spence thing, Bob Arum has made a play for 50-50 down the middle for both fighters, or they could do a split of 45-45, and then 10% is like a win bonus for whoever wins. So they both get 45-45, which is basically 50-50, and then the winner would be getting some kind of UFC incentivized, win bonus. Whoever wins the fight will get a little bit more. And he says that Terence Crawford, they want the Spence fight this year, and then even though the game plan was to have Crawford come back this year, and the game plan was to have Tyson Fury or Wilder at the beginning February or so of next year, 2020, then he says in this interview that they really want to make Fury versus Wilder next. So to me, this sounds like some PR stunt to make it look like, Tyson Fury's chasing Wilder down, which clearly hasn't been the case, because he's the one that needed the tune-ups. Wilder was ready to go, ready to do an immediate rematch. Now with this Crawford situation, it looks like Bob Arum, let me get to what he said and then I'll give more of my thoughts. Bob Arum says Terence is definitely coming back. Crawford will be back in November, maybe in October, November. That's what he said to Helen Yee. He says, we'll be looking for a date in Omaha, because obviously Crawford has a fan base there in Omaha, Nebraska. That's great. Great town. However, we've not been working diligently on that. I'm hoping that everyone can come to their senses and we can get a fight that everyone wants to see, which is Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence. The negotiations are relatively easy. They never started. We have thrown out that we want to do a fight with two networks, do it on pay-per-view and split it down the middle. It's the same way we're doing Wilder versus Fury. When I called Al Heyman, he said Spence is going to fight once more this year, and then we look to fight next year with Crawford and Spence. Right? Bob Arum continues, said, I'm tired of this next year. Let's just do it this year when we're beginning to peak tremendously with interest in the sport of boxing. Let's not let the interest fade. Let's give them the best possible matches this year, and that'll lead to great matches next year. Right? So I'm going to start with my thoughts. Again, Bob Arum has been in the game for a while. He knows how to, I guess, move the casuals any way he wants. He's a promoter, So he has his promoter hat on tough. That's what I see. Same thing with he knows Tyson Fury and Wilder ain't finna happen next, because it's two different networks. He can't control what the other networks' plans are. And he said he needed two tune-ups for Wilder Fury. And then now he's switching it after Fury knocks out Tom Schwartz. So to me, that's just a play to like plant the seed, to make it look like he's so diligently pushing for all these fights to happen this year, knowing damn well it's not going to happen this year because of them. Because if this was the case, if you really wanted Wilder Fury, Wilder, I have the conference call. It is on my channel. This was 2 days after Wilder Fury. I got a email from PBC and said Wilder will be doing a special conference call to discuss his fights and his plans for the rematch, right? So all of a sudden, everyone thought the rematch was going to Barclay, Wilder Fury 2. There were contracts. Tyson Fury's team admits this, right? There was dialogue, and then Wilder said he knew something was up. His team knew something was up because they stopped hearing from Tyson Fury and Frank Warren. So they're like, uh-oh, this can't be good. We don't know what they're up to, but they're up to something, because the conversations just died off. And then come to find out, they died off because he had partnered up for a U.S. distribution deal with ESPN and Top Rank and Bob Arum. And Frank Warren was like kind of double-crossed the situation. Tyson Fury double-crossed the situation. And then they teamed up with another U.S. promoter, which created an obvious void. And then they came out with a whole different itinerary and said, hey, we want Tyson Fury to take two tune-up fights. Now all of a sudden, Arum's trying to make it like he and Top Rank have been pushing to have Wilder Fury 2. Now back to Crawford versus Spence. Same type of deal. He knows that Spence, I mean, the whole world, this is what old media continues to do. And the jig is up. Old media plays dumb. We've been hearing these rumors for months that Errol Spence was going to unify with Sean Porter, Kenny Porter's son, Showtime Sean Porter, two guys that are affiliated with the same advisor. There's been some bad blood. Sean Porter was at Errol Spence versus Mikey Garcia. You know, Errol Spence threw some slights Sean Porter's way. He said, Sean Porter, he can't sell out a family dinner, man down, you know. And then now Arum's coming out saying he wants this fight to happen this year. He knows it's not going to happen. And to me, this is the same psychology as when fighters act like they want to fight somebody and then they send a bullshit lowball offer. Yes, you could say, hey, I sent this man an offer, but it's also an offer you knew wasn't going to be accepted by the other side because it was a ludicrous, ridiculous offer. Same type of concept here. Bob Arum is doing this interview and he's saying these things that sound great. Like if you're just a casual fan and, you know, you want to see these fights, Bob Arum is playing on the emotions and the passion of boxing fans. You know, it sounds good. Yeah. Errol Spence, Crawford this year. Yeah. Wilder versus Fury 2, a great rematch this year. Yeah. Amazing. But he knows that it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen for obvious reasons. And all these fights take planning. You know, Sean Porter versus Errol Spence, this has been going on for months now. We knew about the rumblings of this a long time ago. So if I've made several videos about it, other people have made videos about it. You know, new media has talked about this extensively because at one point the dialogue for Sean Porter, Errol Spence was that they might try to cast this fight on free TV. I made videos about all of that. See, there's no getting around this new digital media age. I told you, we are the digital mob, new media. There's no getting around that. So all this stuff is documented. It's time stamped. You know, it's like the Dewey Decimal System. We have structure. So you can check my catalog alone and see Sean Porter, Errol Spence videos. This has been the talk. Kenny Porter says we signed over a month ago. You know, he did interviews saying we signed. Where's Errol Spence? We ready to go. We ready to go on our end. Then Derek James responded, oh man, they're not being 100% truthful and blah, blah, blah. So the whole world, apparently, except for Bob Arum, knows that Sean Porter and Errol Spence are going to fight next. And then, you know, Mike Coppinger and The Athletic and everybody announced that a deal had been reached, and it was being reported that, widely reported from credible sources, that it's actually finalized. And they're even talking about the undercard. I made a video about all this. David Benavidez versus Anthony Durrell. Benavidez trying to get his WBC belt back. Again, I don't know if that's the final. That's like a rough cut. I don't know if it's the final undercard and everything. But what I do know is, how is it that I'm able to report and tell you all the rumors, all the findings, you know, talk to sources I have and, you know, make these videos and give insight on the game. And you mean to tell me a rival promoter or a promoter who wants to work with that side has no knowledge of any of this? So, you know, Bob Arum's just doing what Bob Arum always does, which is play promoter games, where the promoter had feed off the casual fans' energy and desire to see great fights to create this episode. And Wilder's ducking Fury, or Terence Crawford is ducking. I mean, he's the one pushing for the fight, and Errol Spence is ducking. But again, all this stuff has been documented. There's no way they're going to be able to spin these narratives, just like there's no way they're going to spin Tyson Fury stopping Tom Schwartz and make this look like this was like he just took down Evander Holyfield or something, So nice try, but it doesn't make sense to me. Now, moving on to the financial stuff. New media. See how we just chopped through this? Bob Arum is requesting something that I anticipate he's not going to be able to get. Crawford has nobody to fight that brings the type of crowd that PBC can bring with their top welterweights. PBC has all of the best welterweights with high value, momentum, great, coming off of great performances, name recognition, those types of things. So Bob Arum requesting 50-50. I think this is a strong positioning, whether the fans like it or not. It's a strong position for Al Heyman, Errol Spence to do it this way, because why work with the rival promoter who never wanted to work with you when he had a bigger stable? And this is the funny thing about old media. They won't bring up the stuff that I'm bringing up. For example, how could you be mad at Al Heyman having like basically control of the whole welterweight division in terms of all the dope names, big names, high profile names, except for Crawford, and then choosing to make credible, good fights there first and give the winner of those fights the opportunity to come in and get the lion's share of money? That's just simple business. You would want to align your person up like that. And the thing is, Top Rank is in a position where UFC is also on ESPN. That's not the case for Showtime. That's not the case for Fox. So Bob Arum and Top Rank, they probably need numbers because they haven't put on too many big shows. I mean, they had Crawford Khan, which was a pay-per-view, never released the numbers. They had Kubrat Pulev versus Bogdan Dinu. They had Tyson Fury versus Tom Schwartz, never released the numbers. Versus ESPN, we don't get the numbers. We never heard the numbers, Then they had Isaac Dogboe, right? A rematch versus Navarrete on a doubleheader with Miguel Berchelt and Francisco Vargas, but that was the same day as Fox setting good records for Swift Jared Hurd versus Julian J-Rock Williams. And that Fox card outperformed the ESPN card. Look the numbers up, and it was a classic fight with, a clash of good styles. So I think Bob Arum kind of just Top Rank, they need big fights. Because Dante's Boxing Nation has an interview from a couple years ago with Bob Arum, and he asked Bob Arum himself, shout out to him, he asked Bob Arum, he said, will you work with PBC? And then Bob Arum said, nope, and walked away. This was about 2-3 years ago. And then, Dante was just like, oh, okay. And then Bob Arum walked off. Fast forward to the future. Now all of a sudden you hear Bob Arum singing a completely different tune, and now he's, in essence, knows that there's a game plan for these fights, and PBC has options to move guys and get them in the best financial position and the best position of power before they make that mega fight. And Bob Arum is trying to rush the process now, like, oh, no. But years ago, when Top Rank had quality welterweights like Manny Pacquiao, Jesse Vargas, Brandon Rios, Ruslan Provodnikov, they weren't making PBC fights. I wanted to see Brandon Rios versus Adrian Broner. At one point, they were both undefeated. That would have been a great fight. Never made. Pacquiao versus Danny Garcia. Never made. Pacquiao versus Broner. Never made. Pacquiao versus Lucas Matisse. At the time, these fights were never made. Then when Pacquiao gets out of his ESPN Top Rank contract, all of a sudden he fights Lucas Matisse in Malaysia, gets paid for that, stops him. Then he signs with Al Heyman, and then he fights Broner, and now he's fighting Keith Thurman. These fights seem like they couldn't even exist when Pacquiao was with Top Rank. He was fighting Chris Algieri at a catch weight, coming off of a difficult fight with Ruslan Provodnikov that he almost didn't, barely won. Pacquiao's fighting Brandon Rios coming off the Mike Alvarado loss instead of Mike Alvarado, who beat Brandon Rios in the rematch. And then now Bob Arum and Top Rank, they want to rush and make the fights on their watch. And I think the realization is setting in. I think Bob Arum's a good promoter. He's doing shit that he's probably done for years, but he's realizing that it doesn't work like that. You don't own and control the whole board anymore. And I think that's what creates almost like a temper tantrum in these interviews, is he can't just pull the trigger because he doesn't hold all the cards. We've seen this with Eddie Hearn too, with Al Heyman. It's like he was like, oh, we want because he wants, let's say they want Tank Davis to go over and fight Tevin Farmer on DAZN, but they're not in the position. Gervonta Tank Davis would probably be the A side in that equation. So, Al Heyman, he just has a lofty stable, and I think the other promoters are starting to realize it. Like, damn, they can't. Like, you look at it. Look at DAZN. Look at the fights that they've put on. How many have been pay-per-view worthy? How many have been bigger than Shawn Porter versus Errol Spence in terms of the blockbuster style fight, a meaningful fight, a fight that establishes the top dogs in that division, right? Same thing with Top Rank. Top Rank has, why didn't they make Oscar Rivas versus Tyson Fury? If Oscar Rivas can go over to DAZN to fight against Dillian White, why couldn't he coming off the Brian Jennings win, fought Tyson Fury? Dangerous puncher, amateur background. They put him in with a guy no one's heard of and justified it because Tom Schwartz happened to be ranked with some sanctioning bodies. We don't care because we don't know how the rankings are even thought of. And it was apparent Tom Schwartz had no business in the ring with any of the top elite guys. If Luis Ortiz, Deontay Wilder fought Tom Schwartz, then I would pray for him, because those would probably been uglier than what we've seen with Tyson Fury. But Top Rank and ESPN and Bob Arum, they want to overly praise this without putting in perspective. And the reality is Tom Schwartz was not really he was a nobody in the division. No, name one name that Tom Schwartz had beat of note. One great performance that he had leading up to the Tyson Fury fight. All they were talking about is he was big and he's hungry. He's 6'6" and he's hungry. That don't mean you're ready for world level competition, especially when you ain't fought outside of Germany. So yeah, as far as Crawford versus Spence is a good fight, we're gonna have to wait for it per usual. And it makes sense. You can't shit on Shawn Porter versus Errol Spence when Shawn Porter has a better resume at welterweight than Terence Crawford. Shawn Porter has fought Adrian Broner at welterweight, Danny Garcia, fought Keith Thurman, fought Kell Brook, he fought Julio Diaz, avenged the draw and beat Julio Diaz clean, fought Devin Alexander when he was a champion, he fought Yordenis Ugas. He has a way better resume at welterweight than Crawford, because Crawford only has a couple of fights. He only has a couple of fights at the Division 3. This is nothing to do with Crawford's talent. I always tell you, Crawford is an immense talent, skills out of this world. But the fact is, he fought Jeff Horn, Jose Benavidez, and half a fight with Amir Khan because Amir Khan quit. Shout out to Crawford for, bringing that out of Khan. So, I think Al Heyman is playing chess, and a lot of these other guys are playing checkers. I don't see how Crawford, when it's all said and done, when they do fight, I don't see how he's going to get 50-50. I don't see how he's going to get 45-45 with a 10% split, because I don't see them in the position of power. And once again, like I've been saying, I believe Bob Arum sees he's a smart guy, college graduate. I think Bob Arum realizes they're not in the position of power, and they see what Al Heyman is doing, and they can only imagine that Errol Spence has the style and the skills and the passion to do great things. And if he keeps winning, he will be a household name even more so. He's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. Same thing with Deontay Wilder. These guys are going to get bigger, bigger, and stronger. And they have people like me in new media that will give them a fair shake now. And I think Bob Arum realizes it. That's why he's trying to hit the acceleration, floor it, and at least tell the public that he wants to make these fights. Because by the time Errol Spence and Crawford fight, let's say they fight next year, like I've told you, Crawford will definitely be the B-side. I'm not talking about skills, because skill for skill, they're both good. But in terms of how can Crawford stay the A side or be the A side if Errol Spence knocks out Shawn Porter? Now he has 2 belts. Crawford only has 1 belt. And again, Crawford will likely have to fight Mean Machine Snuffleupagus or whatever his name is, or Ray Robinson, who just had a draw with Josh Kelly. Bob Arum said they don't have a budget for the Kell Brook fight. So what big fight? No one wants to see Terence Crawford versus Amir Khan after that first fight. So realistically, who can Crawford fight outside of a Heyman guy that really shows us anything that we don't already know about Crawford? We already know he's a badass. We already know he's good. He doesn't even have the type of opponents. And these are things he would have to have considered when he re-up with Top Rank. I don't tell people who to stay loyal to, but it's just something you have to consider. That's just the way of the world. So I really don't see how Crawford is going to get 50-50 or 45-45 and a win bonus. I just don't see it, because when it's all said and done, if Errol Spence keeps winning, he'll have more than 1 belt. You know, just look at it. Al Heyman's doing a tournament, as I've stated time and time again on my channel. Pacquiao Thurman, Danny Garcia, Mikey Garcia, Shawn Porter versus Errol Spence. This is basically a tournament. So Errol Spence could fight Pacquiao Thurman winner, and then if he wins versus Porter and then he beats Pacquiao Thurman winner, let's say those are both good fights, and then Errol Spence emerges through the ashes and beats all those guys, then how on earth can Terence Crawford fight Mean Machines and Ray Robinson? You know, even though Ray Robinson beat him in the amateurs, he's already lost to the pro. Fight you guys, fight Luis Collazo, Kell Brook type of people, and be an A-side over Errol Spence. It's just not going to happen. And I think that's what Bob Arum realizes. So he's trying to at least advocate for the fight immediately. But I don't think he's going to get his way here, you know. And he wants the fans to at least jump in the mix and say, no, we want Crawford Spence. We waited all this time for Pacquiao versus Mayweather, all this time to not see Joshua versus Tyson Fury, to not see Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. This Crawford versus Spence shit, that pales in comparison to how long we've had to wait for that, because Crawford wasn't even at the division until last year, I think, with the Jeff Horn. I was at the fight. You know what I'm saying? So we've been waiting way longer for other fights that still haven't materialized, like Amir Khan, Kell Brook. So, you know, I think fans are just going to have to wait for Crawford and Spence, whether you like it or not, whether you want to play dumb or not. Let me know what you guys think. New media, we kill it. We working too. Peace. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.